Family Farm Action. I am also a family farmer. I farm with my father, my son, and my grandson in Northwest Missouri. I'm proud to be a farmer. I've also served in the Missouri legislature for a time, so that's enough about me. What I want to know, are you ready to stand with me today? Are you ready? I want to know if you're ready to move forward with me today. Are you ready to speak with me today? I want to know if you're ready to work with me today, because all about what we're doing today is going to be about how hard we will work together to move our issues forward. You know, I want to thank our sponsors today. OCM is our featured sponsor. OCM is an Organization for Competitive Markets. They help produce a white paper that helps produce a Farmer's Bill of Rights and give us our rallying cry today. We also have the Working Hero Action, the Regeneration International, and we're also excited to partner today with farmers. And today, if you saw, there was an opportunity to make a donation. 25% of every donation goes to flood relief for those victims through Farm Aid of every donation that's made today. So we're hoping that you might show compassion on your fellow farmer who's been impacted so negatively and severely. In fact, the folks in Nebraska Sunday produced had over 1 million head of cattle were lost in Nebraska. So we shouldn't forget our brothers and sisters in the farming community. So I think we'll show a video. Or will we?
Hello, Storm Lake, and hello, family farmers. I'm glad to know you're raising your voices today in Iowa, calling attention to the challenges of family farmers and rural communities, so that the leaders of our country will put family farmers and rural communities on their priority list where they belong. I'm proud to have stood with you since 1985 when I started Farm Aid. I believe that family farmers and our rural places are worth fighting for, and America knows that you are worth fighting for. Through the years, you and I stood up for family farms when they were being forced out of business during the farm crisis in the 1980s. We organized and marched to say no to factory farmers. We talked with folks about the risks of corporate control of our seas and the damage to our soils. And we've advocated for access to credit and equity and lending for all farmers. And we've raised our voices for new farmers, young farmers, and veteran farmers. We're in this for the long run, and we've got so many people standing with us because we all eat and we all have a stake in the way farmers are treated. And you're all gathered today to make sure our policymakers listen and put your words into action. Farmers are being driven off the land by low prices and government inaction. They're under terrible stress at an increased risk of desperation and suicide. This is because we've got a broken farm and food system that damages family farmers, rural communities, local economies, our health, our soil, and our water. We must change this system. We believe that family farmers have the right to a fair price and a good living. There's a lot of work to do, but you farmers know the way forward. Farmers keep raising the solutions up. Policymakers, please start listening. Our farm and food system belongs in the hands of many family farmers, not under the control of a handful of corporations.
Thank you, Willie. Willie gets it, and Willie highlights the need for why we are here today, for the Farmer's Bill of Rights. You know, our farm and rural communities are in crisis mode right now. You know, we're actually fed up with multinational corporations extracting our wealth. If you wonder why our cities and towns are being hollowed out, you know, when you understand the largest owner of beef, pork, rural communities is what this consolidation has done to us. You know, so it's time for a change. The policies that we've had for the last 35 years have got, in my home state of Missouri, 1 in 5 children going to bed hungry at night. You might wonder what the Farmer's Bill of Rights is. You can read everything you want to know about the Farmers' Bill of Rights on farmaction.us. But a few highlights would be a fair and open competitive market. The more competition we have in the marketplace, the fewer regulations we might need. We need to protect our natural resources. Believe it or not, we're not the last generation that's going to live on this land. Our children and our grandchildren and generations after that and this planet and this world need to be protected. And believe me, family farmers and people who are attached to that land emotionally will protect that land much better than international corporations. Thank you. We need especially young people to have fair access to capital, but I would also say we need to have an agriculture that rewards labor, not just the investment of capital, because not everybody's born with a pocket full of money. The only thing I have over the young farmers now is I'm old and I have more money, and that shouldn't be an advantage. It should not be an advantage. And that means real opportunities for families. Our families need to be reimbursed for their hard work and for what they grow and for what they give their community. A community cannot be a community without people. It will just be there. But that's one of the reasons we're here. But we have a lot of people from all across this country that are going to be talking to us. And you'll get to hear enough from me anyway. So I'm honored to be here with each one of them, and I'm going to do one thing that's not on my list. It's a point of personal privilege that I've taken upon myself, because we would not be here today, where we're at today, unless one individual, I just saw him show up, Stephen Weber, who used to be the chairman of the Democratic Party in the state of Missouri, grabbed our Farmers' Bill of Rights and was the first one to take it on the road. Thank you, Stephen Weber, for giving legs for what we're doing, for giving a start to a movement that's going to change this country. Willie laid it out real well. And Anna from Farm Aid is going to come up, but then I believe we're going to have a number of other speakers, and I will let them introduce themselves. I believe that will save us time and give you more information, and you won't have to look at me. So thank you all very much for coming. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Anna Hankins, and I am a young, non-land-owning Iowa farmer. I am originally from Massachusetts, but transplanted to Iowa almost 3 years ago, and I couldn't be happier to call the Midwest my home. Sometimes I wonder how I went the first years of my young adult life not knowing how good ranch dressing or fresh sweet corn is, and how it's possible to eat your body weight in both all before noon. My own farm identity is some mix of stories of my grandparents' orchard in California, my father's garden, and a small New England dairy farm, stories from my own farm advocacy work, and the many places in Iowa that I have called home these past few years. More often than not, I am daydreaming about Richard and Sandy's dairy farm, a place that nourished me quite literally as I drank their milk there my entire life, but also as the place that seeded my love of farming, farm politics, and dairy. The days I got to milk cows, feed calves, and listen to their stories were and continue to be some of the most formative days of my life. It is hard to know how bad the farm economy is until you are on a 50-cow dairy. It is also hard to know how much knowledge, skill, understanding of ourselves and other beings is soon to be lost until you listen steadfast to stories of year after year of caretaking for livestock and the land. When I told Richard and Sandy's that I might want to farm on a negative 10-degree day in January, while Richard and I dragged hay to hungry cows, he said that this could be a good life. I say that to myself almost every day. This could be a good life, and it is certainly a life that is worth fighting for. I think being a young farmer currently means choosing to be in the profession of sheer stubbornness. It is hard to know what we know about our current farm economy and wake up every day and say, wow, we're going to do this every day for the rest of our lives. The barriers facing young and beginning farmers today, especially farmers of color, native farmers, and those who have been marginalized by our political and economic system built on plantation agriculture and colonization, are astronomical. From skyrocketing land prices, the pre-existing debt that myself and many people I know have, lack of access to affordable health care, lack of rural infrastructure, lack of fair prices. I could stand here and continue with that list for hours and hours. The barriers are so great. It is hard to be a young farmer in these times when the system is set up so that there isn't another generation of farmers. All of the politicians, economists, journalists, and academics who like to say that rural America is not worth fighting for obviously have not been lucky enough to experience the rhythm of milking parlors, the subtle calculations made while herding sheep. They also must not know the diversity and complexity of political thought that can exist within households, across county lines, and down country roads. They also must not understand the resilience and creativity of farmers young and old throughout the country. I hope the politicians attending today's event take the time to listen, and to listen hard to the stories of what's at stake. Because for folks like myself and so many others, it is so much. Thank you.
Good morning, Storm Lake. My name is Patty Edelberg. I'm the National Farmers Union Vice President, and I'm also a dairy farmer in central Wisconsin. These are my colleagues, Sarah Lloyd from Wisconsin and Greg Unford from Indiana are also Farmers Union members. 200,000 family farmers, ranchers, and rural members nationwide. Since our establishment in 1902, we have been fighting for fair market access for farmers. National Farmers Union has long supported much of the Farmers Bill of Rights. We see that consolidation has risen to alarming levels in ag industries. Seeds, chemicals, fertilizers, meatpacking, grain trading, and food retail are all controlled by small groups of dominant players. High levels of consolidation have increased cost, reduced choice, and stifled innovation. Farmers are being squeezed from both ends, leaving us with razor-thin margins. The farmer share of the consumer dollar is at its all-time low. Today, farmers receive only 14 cents of every dollar that the consumer spends on food. Because of almost impossibly tight margins, farmers have been forced to adopt get big or get out mentality. Today, only about 10% of farms, 10%, account for 3/4 of all the value of agricultural production. Make no mistake about it, family farm agriculture and our rural communities are definitely at risk. We need our leaders to step up and stand strong in the face of corporate interests. Family farmers and ranchers deserve the right to control their own destiny. That starts with access to fair and open markets and includes so much more. We deserve the tools that we need to mitigate and adapt to growing impacts of our changing climate. We deserve the right to fair capital, especially for our young farmers that are just struggling to get started. We deserve the right to tell consumers that we raised their food right here in the United States, and they have the right to know. We deserve access to health care, access to the internet. We deserve to send our kids to good schools.
Yes.
And most of all, we deserve a fair shake. We work damn hard from dusk to dawn every day to provide high quality, affordable food, fiber, and fuel for our country. And we as farmers, we deserve the same for ourselves. That's right.
Good morning. I'm Greg Gunthorpe from LaGrange, Indiana. My family raises pigs, chickens, ducks, and turkeys. We have a USDA processing plant on our farm, and our primary customer base is upscale restaurants, Chicago, Indianapolis, and Detroit. In 1998, my wife and I sold live pigs for less than what my grandpa sold them in the Depression. Now, please don't dismiss my thoughts because I'm involved in local food or sustainable agriculture. The struggles that the American farmer faces, whether that be small hobby, sustainable niche, or commodity farmers, is real. Our loss of the share of the retail food dollar is our biggest struggle, and that is all classes of farmers. Wanted to talk briefly about labeling, which I believe is a huge issue for market access because of transparency in the marketplace. And I believe that that affects all farmers. It obviously affects us niche farmers because we don't have access to shelf space. It also affects commodity farmers because it's just a continuation of the erosion of the farmer's share of the retail dollar when commodity product with greenwash labels ends up at the grocery store. That needs to change. We have, as a nation, lost our core fabric in our rural communities. That's the real struggle in what's happening out here. We went from rural America being where farmers helped each other to farmers are literally shooting each other to get their neighbor's land. That's wrong. Greed and overzealous capitalism has pervaded rural America. I have three desires or actions that I'd like to see for our government for change. The first thing is that I firmly believe that the Department of Justice, the Federal Trade Commission, the USDA, the Packer and Stockyards Administration, the Ag Marketing Service, they've been on vacation since the 1970s. And it's time our government puts them back to work. I believe that the American farmer and all kinds of the American farmers, small hobby farmers, sustainable niche direct marketers, and commodity farmers deserve seats at the table. If we're going to do a new Green Deal, we need to be at the table, all farmers. If we're going to have ag advisory councils for administrations, we need all farmers, not who's who of the status quo of agriculture. Final thing is that if we're going to tilt the table towards anyone, we need to tilt the table towards the independent, traditional family farm. I'm going to leave you with I have full hope and faith in the resilience of the American farmer. We fully understand that change is inevitable. We deal with that all the time. Just give us a level playing field and we'd be fine.
Well, I'm going to rally this rally up a little bit. And so, when I say pull, you say it together. Pull! Together! Pull! Together! Pull! Together! All right! I just came on the bus from Wisconsin with the whole busload of Wisconsin farmers. We're really thrilled to be here, and we really thank the Family Farm Action for organizing this and bringing us together, because this is vital. My name is Sarah Lloyd. My husband and I are dairy farmers in Wisconsin. My husband's family has been dairy farming for over 100 years in the town of Newport outside Wisconsin Dells. We milk 350 cows, and we're going broke. And it's most likely that by the end of this year, we will not be milking cows anymore. And that's the sad reality. We're losing more than 2 farms a day in Wisconsin, and we're losing farms all across the nation. And farms are critical to our rural community vitality and our ability to interact with our urban neighbors and our rural neighbors. And I'm tired of being told as a farmer that I've got to just tighten my belt a little bit more, or be a better business person. Because I'm not a bad business person. I cannot make a living if I have to interact with a market that is stacked against me as an independent business person. And that's why I'm here today. We gotta get together, because we cannot have this individuals competing against each other, because we're not the problem. The market is the problem, the consolidated market, and it's so important that we're here in Iowa talking about antitrust. And I appreciate the fact that we have to urge our government to come off a vacation and enforce the antitrust rules. Now, if any of you have met my farm family, my mother-in-law, I'm going to channel her right now, she always makes you sing. And the Farmers Union has a long, long tradition of singing some pretty amazing songs. So I tried to pass out some song sheets on the yellow, and this is just going to take about a minute and a half, so don't worry, conference or rally organizers, I timed it. So we are going to sing this great song, probably from the 50s or 60s. So let's do it up. We practiced on the bus, so we're going to do really good. Okay. The land without the people is a land without a soul, and the people without
short guy. Hi, everybody. I'm glad you're all here today. And my name is Chris Peterson. Been a family farmer all my life, and a traditional non-confinement pig farmer. So, I just need to say, as a board member of the Organization for Competitive Markets, I am proud OCM is part of this great rally and is the featured sponsor. I sit on the board of OCM, and we're a group of family farmers who want to change things for rural America. So, we support the Farmers' Bill of Rights. The Organization for Competitive Markets strongly supports the Farmers' Bill of Rights. As an organization representing independent family farm agriculture, OCM works to restore the rights and liberties of family farms, ranchers, and our rural communities through open and fair markets. Concentration issues have always been at the forefront, and we call for a passage of a merger moratorium. It's in Congress now, so let's do it. And as far as mergers go, we are told continuously that mergers are good for family farms. Have any of you seen that? I see it just as another chance to screw the farmer and cheat rural America of economic justice. We are also told checkoffs are good for farmers. They used to be, when they first came into existence. They need to be reformed. There will be legislation in Congress about that one too. America has a monopoly problem, and no sector is worse than food and agriculture. And it's spreading throughout the economy. It's actually worse than in the times of Teddy Roosevelt, 120 years ago. I think it's time for another Teddy Roosevelt, don't you guys? And gals? It's time. As a farmer, I talk farm talk. It's time to run that bull in the chute and fix it. Let's give family farmers and the consumers a chance. We are waiting for somebody to run that bull in the chute. The mergers of the past few years, Monsanto, Bayer, DuPont, Syngenta, ChemChina, has resulted in 3 companies controlling 70% of the world's pesticide market, more than 61% of the commercial seed market, and 80% of the U.S. seed market, corn seed market. All I know is farmers are being farmed and used. Our pockets are being picked. From the contract growers of livestock, which are not getting paid a decent price, the cost of inputs, the prices we get for the grains, out of these so-called markets, things need to change. The 4 largest multinational corporations have gained control of 71% of the pork market, 85% of the beef market, 90% of the grain market. The largest pork producer is China, Smithfield, and 2 of the top beef producers are Brazil's JBS and Brazil's Marfrig. In the meantime, through all this, as an example, 94% of independent pig farmers are gone. We have no market anymore. If you sign a contract or you just forget it, The only other alternative is to get in a niche or alternative market, which I am in, which 35 years ago was called mainstream agriculture. That's what they've done to family farms. Economists agree that more than 40% consolidation by the top 4 corporations in the sector indicates abuses, and collusion. It's going on. It's rampant. So again, where are you, Teddy Roosevelt? Then again, where are you, Farm Bureau? You bring the fight for family farmers. I haven't seen it yet. Have you? See, Farm Bureau is about Farm Bureau, their investments and their insurance, while using the cover of Family Farm Ag to keep doing what they're doing, investing in the very same entities that are running us out. Rural America is bleeding. Dirt, kids, family farms. We need to stop it. We need to change it. We need to hit the pause button on agricultural acquisitions and mergers. We need the U.S. Congress to pass a merger moratorium bill now. Yes! Let's do it. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Marcus Davis. I'd like to thank you all for coming today to the great state of Iowa. I'm with the Organization for Competitive Markets. I'm a board member of that, board member of Family Farm Action. Serve on a couple of advisory boards, sale program, and I'm here today with the invitation. I work with the state of Missouri NAACP on agricultural issues because agricultural issues affect us all. The reason we like the Farmers' Bill of Rights is a fair and open market. The market's not controlled by monopolies. When I was a kid growing up, nobody would have thought that the very people who made the chemicals that was used during the Holocaust would buy a company located in Missouri. That my father served in a segregated outfit in World War II. We like the right to feed our communities. Those billions of dollars put on the SNAP program, that money doesn't go to farmers. It keeps the stores in business. The poor people are just used as a revenue stream for the local grocery stores. And a lot of the grocery stores are vertically integrated, and the farmers don't get very little of that money. We like fair capital without predatory lending, without people trying to figure out we're going to get you in debt so we can steal your farm. You know, a lot of times they know when they loan the money out. It's not going to work. Let the program free. Then we need food security in the African American community and in all communities. Food insecurity is a big issue in communities of color. We need transparent labeling because a lot of times where they dump that food just happens to be in the communities of color. Where the local grocery store, there is no grocery store. They call it food delivery. Then we need rural opportunity. Southeast Missouri, Missouri Beaver Hill has been an economic barrier. And thank God I see the sign there of open paper. I turned 18 in Marine Corps boot camp. And I thank you, yes. And we need a merger moratorium, and we need it now. Well, actually, we needed it 15 years ago. But we'll accept it now. Thank you for the time.
Okay to make noise at a rally. That's not the idea. That's what we're supposed to do. If you want to do that during my speech, I'll make time for you. We'll work it in. I hear Elizabeth Warren is going to be here in a few minutes, so it'd be nice if we could bring her in with some noise and yelling so she knows why she's here. Anyway, my name is Jim Goodman. I'm with the Family Farm Defenders and the National Family Farm Coalition. My wife and I just closed on the sale of our farm yesterday. I've been in my family for 170 years.
We're an organic dairy farm, but we basically had to get out a lot sooner than we wanted because we lost our organic market. Because there's a lot of organic farms in Texas that say they're organic, and they're undercutting us on price. But what farmers, whether you're organic, whether you're conventional, whether you're a dairy farmer, we need fair prices and we need open markets. It's all we ask for, fair prices. We don't want subsidies, we want fair prices. Wisconsin lost 700 dairy farms last year. Maybe that's not as many as during the farm crisis of the 80s, but there aren't that many left. So we need to return to parity pricing. Fair markets for milks, crops, pigs, whatever you're producing. We don't need insurance other than to cover disasters. Insurance shouldn't insure us so we can stay on the farm. If CAFOs can't follow the rules, then it's time to shut them down. I think we've had enough organic CAFOs putting small organic farmers out of business. And I don't think we need Sonny Perdue, the Secretary of Agriculture, telling the small organic farms if they don't like the way the things are, pick up and move somewhere else. Sorry, but that's not the way it works. Cows need to be on pasture. Chickens and pigs need to see the sunlight once in a while. Vertical integration does not allow us access to markets. And that's what's happening. We saw it in poultry, we saw it in pork, and it's coming to dairy. We have a right to feed our communities through food sovereignty. We want to feed people, not the banks on Wall Street and multinational agribusiness corporations. There's something wrong when we import 50% of our fruit and almost that much vegetables, and all we can export are commodity crops. Commodity crops are not food. We demand cool, country of origin labeling. Everyone needs to know where their food comes from. Everyone deserves to have the kind of food they want to eat to meet their social, their cultural needs. We have no right to proclaim we're going to feed the world. The world never asked us to feed it. The world can feed itself if we let it. There is no shortage of food in the world. There's a shortage of democracy. And that ensures that only people with money can afford to eat. Farmers all over the world need to be protected from corporate land grabs of multinational corporations, seed and chemical companies, and even some governments. We have a right to be protected from land grabs too, because if you think about it, if all you can produce, if all you can sell is corn and soybeans, you're not in control of your farm. The indigenous have a right to protect their land from exploitation by gas, oil, and mineral companies and the transportation of those products. We have a right to protect our natural resources. Government programs like CSP and EQIP should be paying for real conservation efforts, not funding CAFO manure pits. I think we've all had enough pollution, whether it's the raccoon in Iowa River or the wells in Wisconsin. We don't need any more manure in our drinking water. We have a duty to stop the dead zone proliferation in the Gulf and the Chesapeake, because water is everyone's right. Agriculture needs to be a part of the Green New Deal. We need to recarbonize the soil and decarbonize the atmosphere. Keeping carbon in the soil is the best way to do that. And commodity crop production is not going to do that. It's going to be regenerative farms, organic farms, small sustainable farms that get paid a fair price. And corporate America has to be held responsible for the pollution they create, whether it's on our fields or in the inner city neighborhoods where they build their factories. Local governments have a right to land control. They should be able to regulate the size, the placement, and the pollution from CAFOs. Foreign ownership of land, of farms, and of processing facilities needs to be controlled. We need access to credit, local funding for our infrastructure, and regulation of Wall Street. We demand access to fair credit for women, beginning farmers, and minority farmers. Small farm communities need local banks and credit unions, not Wall Street banks and hedge funds that gamble with our money. We need fair taxation and revenue sharing to support our public schools, our local infrastructure, and we need to have the federal government reinstate the Glass-Steagall Act to prevent big banks from gambling, and we also need a financial transaction tax. I think it's time we let Wall Street rebuild Main Street. Rural areas have a right to opportunity. Willie's speech may have failed because the broadband wasn't here. We need access to everything that everyone else has. We need universal Medicare for all. And finally, I think we all need to remember that America was built on diversity and immigrants. There's no place for discrimination or intolerance based on race, gender, religion, economic status, or anyone's individuality. And I think this afternoon, the candidates that listen to what we want and are willing to support it and work with us, they may be the people that we vote for. Thank you.
Thanks for the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Sherry Duggar. I serve as the Executive Director of Indiana Farmers Union, but today I'm speaking to you on behalf of American Grass-Fed Association, where I also serve as a Program Director. American Grass-Fed Association is a national organization that provides certification, market support, education, research, and advocacy on behalf of grass-fed producers and supporters. AGA offers independent family farms and ranches use of the first and only national grass-fed certification program developed by grass-fed ranchers, scientists, veterinarians, and industry experts. The organization serves 1,000 certified grass-fed farmers and ranchers throughout the United States. Agriculture in America today, has been raised on tradition. In the 1800s and early 1900s, we grew our food system through shared values, truth and transparency, and stewardship of animals and land. The raising of food in America today, however, no longer rests on such a proud and storied family farm tradition. Instead, modern agriculture is best characterized by multinational control, false and misleading labeling, consumer confusion, land, water, and air pollution, and withering rural communities. There are nearly 2 million small family farms in America, but that's not where most of our food comes from. Just 7% of all farms produce 80% of the food in the country, and they're nothing like the idyllic farms you see pictured on food labels. These are huge industrial operations, the likes of which are responsible for making agriculture one of the most polluting industries in the country. When a community is sickened by fumes from a hog farm, chances are the toxic pollution comes from a large industrial agricultural operation, not one of the millions of small family-owned farms. But whenever rural residents rise up to demand protection, these big polluters hide behind independent family farmers, like those we represent today. Consumers need to understand this. A 2016 Consumer Reports survey found the overwhelming majority of consumers want labels on meat, poultry, fish, and produce to reflect the country of origin. Country of origin labeling for beef and pork, however, was repealed in 2015. This move nearly crippled American producers, hitting the grass-fed sector especially hard. Without country of origin labeling, or COOL, multinational meat companies could shop for cheap meat from all over the world and sell it in the richest market in the world, the United States, as a product of the USA. And that's exactly what they do. By most estimates, nearly 85% of grass-fed beef sold on American grocery store shelves comes from offshore, the majority arriving from Australia, New Zealand, or Uruguay, though American consumers are intentionally led to believe otherwise. The repeal of country of origin labeling denies our U.S. grass-fed farmers and ranchers the ability to differentiate their products from those of multinational industrial corporations. It also hinders our producers from accessing markets and prevents them from obtaining a fair and just price for their goods. It means multinational food companies can skirt the regulations that are meant to keep U.S. citizens safe, the very same regulations by which our American farmers must abide. Without COOL, consumers don't know what they're buying. This is only one example of the many measures that protect and serve corporate interests while stripping power, wealth, and health from our farmers, communities, and consumers. I read an article recently that stated that facts don't change minds. And still, because I'm hard-headed, I've shared several facts with you today. If I can't change your minds with facts, I ask that you look around you. I hope that you see the faces of farmers standing here today. They are not faceless corporations. They represent generations of tradition and agricultural history in our country, yet their professions hang in the balance. Today, independent family farmers make up only 1% of our population. We cannot continue to allow foreign corporations to control huge swaths of our food production and farmland, putting our economy and national security at risk. We need truth and transparency in labeling. We need systems in place that offer equal access to markets, fair prices, and representation at all levels of government for all farmers. We must do better for our farmers, for rural communities, for consumers, and for our country. That is why I and the American Grass-Fed Association support the Farmers' Bill of Rights. Thank you.
Hey y'all. Hey, I'm here today to take my hat off to American farmers. Tanake, Teanedo, Nayat, Kara, Brewer, Boyd. Hello, how are you? My name is Kara Brewer Boyd. I'm the founder and president of the Association of American Indian Farmers. Woo! I'm also the event and program coordinator for the National Black Farmers Association. My husband is Dr. John Boyd. Unfortunately, he isn't able to be with us here today, but I want to deliver a message to you from my people. That is why I greeted you today in my native tongue. I am an enrolled member of the Lumbee tribe of North Carolina, people of the dark border, and I bring to you those greetings in a way that I was taught by my elders who were taught by the ancestors. That when we meet people, we greet them in our native language and we tell them who we are. That was a short version of an introduction. Our introductions in a longer version would actually include my parents and my grandparents and my clan. I'm actually Beaver Clan, which means I'm usually very busy. If my husband was here, he would say, too busy. But on a farm, we all know that everyone has to be busy at work. And many of you may have not heard of my tribe, the Lumbee tribe of North Carolina. How many of you have ever heard of the Lumbee tribe? There are a few in the audience today. And with that being said, we are the largest tribe east of the Mississippi. We are the 5th largest tribe in the United States. However, we are not fully federally recognized. We don't have all the benefits, protections, and rights that every other Indian has because of their Indian status. In 1956, the Lumbee Act was enacted. And in that federal act, Congress says over 20 times you're an Indian and you're an Indian tribe. However, when it gets to the very last sentence, it says, however, Lumbees are not entitled to any benefits any other Indian receives because of their Indian status. So why have a federal act? It was in name only. So that's why I wanted to speak here today, traveling from Virginia, because it's very important. The Farmers' Bill of Rights will help to protect and establish those rights. And if people don't have those rights and something behind them, you know, it's just a piece of paper. And so that's where we're at today. And I also want to talk to you about the fact that it took over 60 years. Why should it take 60 years and millions of dollars and things still aren't done? That's bureaucracy. And we're here today to stand with the farmers. And I want to share with you an example of the UN-led 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. It was launched in September 2015, which would have you to believe that it's going to take 15 years to start to move towards some sustainable development. Do you guys believe that's the case? No. If we do the right thing, it can get done. The government of Bolivia has just invested $40 million to support small and medium family farms. So far, that money has been given to breeding livestock and fishing farms, and also to increase their crop production, like potatoes, tomatoes, wheat, vegetables, coffee, and cocoa. Please note, this support didn't go to convenience stores and food deserts to create shelf space. This support went to the farmers for production, not companies like Walmart and Costco, which are now being funded with foreign dollars. By enhancing local capacities, Bolivia aims to become entirely self-sufficient by when? 2020. And when is it now? 2019. With an increase of 25% in food production reported since 2014, and the aim being to increase it every year, they're well on their way to meeting their goal. Reducing or holding imports and land purchase by foreign entities would not only help improve the livelihoods of local family farmers and businesses, it would also cut down on emissions while addressing overreaching global issues like unemployment, hunger, and poverty. In addition to supporting local family farms, the government must protect our right to protect our natural resources. No water, no farm, no food. Whatever is done to the earth, you are also doing to the people. If you contaminate the water, it will affect the land and the people who depend upon it for food, clothing, and shelter, and also for future generations. Now is the time to move towards renewable energy. We can and must stop the toxic drilling, mining, and dumping of waste materials into our waters and landfills. We say keep it in the ground and protect sacred water. I stand here today to cheer on Family Farm Action and all of you as we work together. Wasn't there? Oh, it's pull together. As we pull together to protect family farms and pass the Farmers' Bill of Rights. Please tune in Thursday, April 4th, this year, 2019, at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time or 9 Central for the new docu-series on the History Channel. It's called The American Farm, and it will be featuring Board Farms and also 4 other family farms across the country with the day in and day out operations. It is truly reality TV, and I will be watching along with everyone else because I have no idea what is going to be seen. And I leave you now with 2 more words from my Schoolroy people, the Tuscarora Nation of North Carolina. Nawe Ona. Thank you, and later.
I am a rural progressive, which is a tough job, and someone's got to do it. For the last 6 years, I have run my produce farm and stump grinding business in rural Ohio. I ran for state representative in 2016 for Congress in the special election in Ohio last year. Today I'm here with ruralorganizing.org because I didn't win those 2 races. But rural America raised me, and it is a place that's worth fighting for. I grew up, yes. I grew up in a tiny factory town in the Ohio Valley. Generations of my family did the bedrock community jobs there. Grandpa was a dairy farmer. Other grandpa was a dentist who lived above his practice. Dad was a town banker. My mom taught home ec in the high school where I graduated with 55 kids. Anybody have any beats? You got me? I figured this was the place. I grew up playing with herbal tractors that were made here in Iowa once upon a time. Like your Senator Joni Ernst, I spent my fair share of time castrating bull calves for 11 years of 4-H projects. Progressives can do that too. I left to earn an ag science degree, came back to start the farm, and I ran for office to speak up for the simple, decent values that are alive and well in rural America today. Rural America is a birthplace of progressive values. Honesty, hard work, basic fairness, respect and dignity for all people. Those are values that live in the heartland and go back past William Jennings Bryan and the Prairie Populists. And progressive policies that are built on those values win in rural America today. Red-leaning states have raised the minimum wage, won union contracts for striking workers, have expanded Medicaid, called to defend Social Security, passed levies for schools, libraries, police, and fire, and restored millions of people their voting rights. These are red-leaning states. And rural voters are a swing population. In 2016, roughly 5% of rural Trump voters cast their ballot for a Democrat running for the House seat. In 2018, Democrats picked up a 25-point swing with rural millennials. And with rural Gen Xers, progressives picked up an 18-point swing. So I think doing better in rural America is really pretty simple. It's about showing up. It's about building power so people can improve their own lives. And it's about asking people for their vote. But everybody knows the same old story. There's only one side that has been really showing up for the past 40 years, and they've been up to no good. Powerful interests have preyed on rural America. They've extracted wealth from the land. And while they've done that, they have divided workers against each other with anger and fear, resentment, and fear of the other that looks nothing like communities in real life. And it is all hogwash designed to make a few people a ton of money. But right now is the time to replace resentment politics with something sunny. That's right. RuralOrganizing.org wants to run trusted local community leaders that are committed to the basics. Raising incomes, thank you. Raising incomes, lowering expenses, taking on the powerful interests that have hollowed out rural communities over the last 40 years, and preserving the rural way of life that we all love so much. Over this election cycle and future cycles, we want to see a reverse coattail strategy pushed. By that, we want to put local races first for a couple reasons. People coming out for a local candidate are already much more likely to go for the national. Second, resources spent in local small elections go much farther when they're not drowned out by national level money, attention, and interest. And third, trust in progressive government and values is built where the potholes are being paved and where people know their representatives. It is hard to hate somebody that you know unless it's Thanksgiving. Fighting for rural communities is not only the right thing to do, it is necessary for every progressive priority. If we're going to meet the challenges that we face with progressive solutions that match, and we have to do that. Fires in California, floods across the Midwest, we have big problems to solve. If we're going to meet those challenges, it means doing the hard work of organizing in rural communities, of building power in the Senate, in the Electoral College. And that's what we have to do. That's what this is all about. So ruralorganizing.org, by running those trusted local candidates who bring out their neighbors, by taking on power with a smile, by committing to this year over multiple election cycles, we hope to be part of putting action behind the things that we're talking about here today and talking about in this forum. So thank you to the organizers. Thank you to all of you for coming. Please join Rural Organizing, lend your voice to the Facebook group, help us be part of reviving life in the places that we love so much. I'm really excited to be here. John Russell with ruralorganizing.org. Thank you, everybody.
As you've heard, there are some challenges in rural America. Let's give all those who came from so far away to speak today to us. Now, wrap it up. Let's give them a big round of applause. Let's go ahead. Thank you all for coming. I think we found some common threads in all the presentations that we have heard. I think it's time that we start breaking up the big multinational corporations. We think it's time that we start putting wealth back into rural communities. We think it's time to start investing in our young farmers and our young people. Then you've come to the right place. You know, we're really excited today that why we're in Iowa, because you know, Iowa is not unique in the challenges that it has in its rural communities over many other states around it. But Iowa is unique in that everything funnels through Iowa in national politics. So it's important that we come to those places and start building our momentum in those places where people are paying attention to what's going on. And we're really happy that we have a number of those folks that I believe are going to want to speak with us today. And I'm not sure if he's waving at me to make the introduction or to keep talking. I bet you I get to make an introduction. You know, I think I get to make an introduction, and I'm proud to make this introduction. You know, we have been hearing about those struggles. We have been hearing about the challenges, but fortunately, we have some policymakers who are hearing our struggles and actually working and offering real solutions to our problems. I'm really excited to introduce the next speaker. the Honorable Senator Warren. The Senator from Massachusetts. If you'd like to find out more about organic food, look at Elizabeth Warren.
Make it, you know, particularly after the devastation of flooding in Iowa and Nebraska. I know this is a hard time. We've seen livestock drowned, grain ruined, and it is a reminder that as Americans, when a disaster hits, we stand shoulder to shoulder. It is also a reminder that we need climate change action now. Of the land. And as Americans, we need to support our farmers as they help us fight back against climate change. I'm so glad to have the chance to be here with you today. You know, I want to talk just a little bit about Washington and what goes on in Washington because it touches your lives every day. And Washington works great. Washington is just doing a fabulous job. It is really out there working. It's working for giant drug companies, just not for people who are trying to get a prescription filled. It's working for giant oil companies that want to drill everywhere, just not for people who are worried about the impact of climate change. And it is working just great for giant agribusinesses, just not for farmers who work the land. We live in an America where our government is working better and better for the rich and the powerful, for the wealthy and the well-connected, and not working for anyone else. Works for those at the top and doesn't work for the rest of the people, that is corruption, pure and simple, and we it is corruption that touches the lives of everyone in this room. A generation ago, 37 cents of every food dollar went into a farmer's pocket. Today, that's 15 cents of every food dollar that goes to a farmer. And why? It's because the giant businesses have figured out that they can suck the profits out for themselves, for their investors, for their corporate executives. And they leave less and less and less for the people who actually work the land. That's not right, and that's why we're in this country. So what are we going to do about it? That's the question. That's why we're here today. And the answer is not that we're going to pick a little piece around here. We're going to be satisfied because we get a little something in this bill or that bill. Maybe an amendment here or a regulation change over there. No. We need big structural change in our government. It starts with a Farmer's Bill of Rights. I'm with you on that. It also means we need to enforce the antitrust laws. To fight back against consolidation. And I'll make you a promise. You put me in the White House, I will unwind the Bayer Monsanto. The antitrust laws. And I'll tell you another one. Every person in this country, every farmer, should have a right to repair their own equipment. So I'm just but I just want to focus on one more part of it. And that is, in America, we need to block foreign ownership of our farmland. Foreign governments control an area, if it were all put together, that is the size of Virginia. That is not only a threat to our farmers and our farming production, it is a threat to our national defense and our food security. I get it. The game is rigged. But I'm here today because I am hopeful. Because there are folks at the top, the rich and the powerful, man, they got this government working great for them. But here's the deal. There's a whole lot more of us than there is of them. And any So here's what I'm in this fight for. I'm in this fight for a government that reflects our values. I am in this fight for a government and for a country that works not just for the rich and the powerful, not just for the giant multinational corporations, but a government and a country that works for all of us. It's an honor to stand with you.
On that list, Dave Frederickson. He's a former national president of Farmers Union, served as ag commissioner, I believe maybe two terms in the great state of Minnesota, and just a downright good human being. And so for Senator Amy Klobuchar, we'll ask Dave to come up and say a couple words, or three, whatever you want.
Introduce you, you know it makes you awfully nervous, so could have been worse. Well, again, warm greetings to all of you. It was a real pleasure to be able to hear Senator Warren in person talk about excitement. She gins it up. It's a tough act to follow, but I'll do my best. First of all, I want to bring greetings to all my Farmers Union friends here. Minnesota, and Patty Edelberg, the Vice President of the National Farmers Union. Great to see you, Patty. And all of the other dignitaries and friends, certainly. What a great pleasure and honor to be here in Storm Lake, Iowa, for this rally and forum on corporate concentration and its impact on all sectors of our economy, including agriculture. I'm here on behalf of a friend who is not able to be here this morning because another campaign commitment here in Iowa because of, but will be here to participate in the forum this afternoon. That friend is United States Senator from Minnesota, Amy Klobuchar. So let me tell you why I'm here. I was born and raised on a small grain and dairy farm in west central Minnesota. After college and teaching for 8 years, my wife Kay and I came home to the farm when my dad's health failed, and we farmed for the next 24 years in a little town north of Murdoch. We raised corn, we raised soybeans, we raised 2 daughters, we raised a bunch of dogs, a bunch of cats, and occasionally a little bit of help. I served 2 terms in the Minnesota Senate. After the second term, I realized that every now and then an innocent person is sent to serve and retire. I then went on to serve 10.5 years as the president of Minnesota Farmers Union. I served 2 terms as president of the National Farmers Union, living out of a suitcase in Denver and D.C. in Minnesota. I was on my way to an event in a little town called Woodstock. Not the one Chris Peterson remembers, but the one out in western Minnesota. Actually say that you remember Woodstock, you weren't there. On the way out to this little town of Woodstock, I fell asleep at the wheel and rear-ended a grain truck. Ended up in the hospital and bunged up my knee and survived. About a month or two later, I was flying from Mexico City to Houston and back to Minnesota, and the airplane was struck by lightning. I thought to myself, I think I've just had a sign. And so I retired from the National Farmers Union. Unfortunately, I flunked retirement, went to work for Senator Klobuchar, fortunately. I did her ag policy and ag outreach work for the first 4 years of her very first term. We had an election. A new governor was elected in Minnesota, and I went to work for Governor Dayton and served as his ag commissioner for the past 8 years, having now just retired again. I'm afraid I'm going to flunk retirement one more time. I'm here on behalf of Senator Klobuchar. I can devote full time to helping Senator Klobuchar become the President of the United States of America. I can say without a doubt, having worked both for her and with her interest and commitment to the American farmer is rock solid. Her first committee choice was the Senate Ag Committee, and she is now in her 13th year as a member of that committee. Her ag focus has been and will continue to be what's best for the American farm family. Please give her your every consideration as you move toward that time of decision making. But remember, she has just now signed on to the Farmers' Bill of Rights. She has also just recently introduced the infrastructure bill for America, in which we commit $1 trillion. And for those of you that have driven the roads, whether it's in Iowa or whether it's in Minnesota or Wisconsin, you know that this is pothole season. And we need to address those issues. In Minnesota, we have experienced one thing, a tragedy, and that is when the I-35 bridge fell. Within a year's time, Senator worked hard to be able to put that in place, and we now have a wonderful new bridge spanning the Mississippi River. Again, I want to thank you for your attention. I know we're getting a little bit late in the morning, but I can only reiterate, please give Senator Klobuchar every consideration as you move toward decision time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I should mention that Representative John Delaney put out a statement this morning endorsing as a presidential candidate, endorsing the Farmers' Bill of Rights out of Maryland. And also, so you understand, let's give all those candidates who's endorsing our candidate a great hand.